afternoon, everyone. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I definitely appreciate that. It reminds me of why we do what we do at Morehouse College. So I thank you for that. That is a great example of the young man that we work with at Morehouse College. So it's a great honor to be introduced by someone. So I'm going to take a different approach than some of the speakers that you've heard thus far, and I'm going to talk about my personal experience. So I'm going to talk about my educational experience, my career path, and then some things that I wish that I had known when I was in your shoes. So when I was deciding whether or not I wanted to be a lawyer, not yet in law school. So I'm going to choose a couple of things to talk about. I'm going to start with my inspiration. And so my inspiration to become a lawyer was very simple. Claire Huxtable, exclusively. So that was it. I'm an 80s baby, and so I grew up watching The Cosby Show on Thursday nights and then Different World. And so I was going to go to Hillman. So it was very clear, I'm going to be Claire Huxtable, and I'm going to Hillman. And so there is no Hillman, but there is a Spelman, and so I attended Spelman. So once I figured out that there was not a Hillman, thank you, I attended Spelman. And so I will get to why I think you all being here is so important. Because as an 80s baby, the images that I was watching on television happened to be very positive. And so I did not know any lawyers, had not met a single lawyer. I did not know what lawyers did. I knew that Clara Huxtable was fabulous. She was beautiful. She was intelligent. She was a mother, a wife. And I wasn't really sure what the lawyer thing was, but I said, well, I want to do that. Whatever she does, I'll choose that profession. And truly had no idea what lawyers did. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. It was purely watching that imagery and what she represented and feeling like I could do that. I would like to do that. Same thing with my school selection. I literally chose Spelman because I wanted to go to Hillman. And so the beauty at that point in time is there was positive imagery on television, and there were examples of minorities doing those kinds of things. There's not as much positive imagery right now. And I think something that's important to realize is the power of images and what we see out there. So it was as powerful to drive me to choose a particular school and a certain profession, but it can be equally powerful to send individuals in the wrong direction and choose things that are not as inspirational and aspirational. In terms of my career path and my education, as I said, I went to Spelman College. I was an English major, and so I will be around later on if people have questions. I initially thought that I should do political science, and so that's a very common major. I also would like to put a plug in, though, for English, because law school is a lot of reading, a lot of synthesizing information, and in most law schools you have a single test at the end, and you have to be a very strong writer, and you have to be able to demonstrate in a single test everything that you've learned from an entire semester's worth of reading and present that in a way that's compelling, and that is your grade for the entire class for that semester. And so an English major is a very helpful preparation for that because you do a lot of reading, a lot of writing. I attended Vanderbilt Law School in Nashville, Tennessee, and I was a summer associate at King & Spalding. And so I'm going to walk through my education and career path, and then I'm going to pull out some nuggets later. I attended King & Spalding. I worked there for 5.5 years. I was a employment litigator and a business litigator, also did class action defense. For those of you all who are from the Atlanta area, King & Spalding is a very large international firm that is based here in Atlanta. After King & Spalding, I started my own firm. So I went from working in a firm that had thousands of attorneys to stepping out and launching my own firm. And I could talk a lot about that, but you know, I joke, there was a feature on me in Black Enterprise, and the feature was what not to do when you start a business. I was was participating in it, but I really underestimated what it took to start the business. Now, I successfully built the law firm, and after 4 years, I had associates and I had paralegals, and I had done all of those things. But, being a lawyer is a profession. Being an entrepreneur and a business owner is it's different. And so a lot of times you have people that assume because you're smart and you're accomplished and you've chosen a certain profession that translates easily into business. It can, but it may not, because running a business is a very different skill set. Now, lucky for me, I was able to develop that skill set, but had I done things differently, I probably would have spent a little more time learning and understanding how to run a business before just launching out and starting it. From that firm, though, I then helped co-found another law firm, McFadden, White, Spratlin, and Davis, which was a 4-woman law firm here in Atlanta, 4 African-American women doing employment law defense. So we had all worked at large law firms in Atlanta. I was the most junior of us at that time, and I had been practicing for about 10 years. And I was the managing partner of that firm, and I had 3 partners. And I was able to manage that firm because of the experience that I had learned in running my own law firm for 4.5 years. After McFadden, White, Spratlin, and Davis, I went to a small employment boutique. And boutique means a firm that does one thing. So employment law, intellectual property, there are certain subject matters. When you hear the term boutique, that means that the law firm does one type of law. I went from managing a law firm and running my own business for approximately 6.5 years to going back into a law firm, a larger national firm. And I was there for 11 months and realized, no. And there was nothing wrong with the firm. It's just having had the experience of running my own firm, being an owner, being a boss, I did not enjoy necessarily going back in and being, an employee, so to speak, in that format. From Ford and Harrison was the shift to my current position. So presently, I'm the Vice President, General Counsel, and Chief Compliance Officer at Morehouse College. I was recruited to this position from my predecessor, so I started as the Associate General Counsel, which is the second in command. And I do want to take a moment to pause and acknowledge my current Associate General Counsel, Ron Gatewood, who is here. And Ron, thank you. So Ron went to Dillard University undergrad, and he went to Emory for law school. So we're in his law school right now, so I'm thankful that he's here with me. So I started in his position, and shortly thereafter, there was a lot of transition at the institution, and so I went from Associate General Counsel to Interim General Counsel to Vice President and General Counsel. Presently, HR reports to me. I am the secretary of the college, which means that I coordinate with the board of trustees. I also am the general counsel and chief compliance officer. So I wear a lot of hats right now, and it is an honor and a privilege to be at Morehouse College. So that's my education and career path. And so now I want to shift to 3 things that I wish I had known, or 3 things about my journey that I think may be helpful as you contemplate your next steps. So first, it's choosing the right law school. When I was at Spelman, and so I knew at age 12 I wanted to be a lawyer based exclusively on Claire Huxtable, but did not, beyond that, really had no idea what lawyers did. I didn't know about different law schools. And so when I got ready to choose law schools, I wasn't really clear on, well, what kind of law school do I need to choose? How do I prepare for that? And so what I would say, and I will back up, I got accepted to most of the schools that I applied to. I was accepted to Vanderbilt. I was also accepted to Stanford. And Stanford did not offer me any money, and Vanderbilt did offer me money. And Vanderbilt has a very strong reputation. It's not Stanford, but it's Vanderbilt, which is, hey. And so I know that there are going to be some panels later about finances in law school and financing law school. I would say that you really need to, in some ways, tie your career goals or what you think your career goals may be to how much money you invest or not in law school. Because I attended law school pre-recession. And so at the time, the advice was go to the best law school that's available to you. So if you get in to the best name, the best brand, doesn't matter how much it costs, you go there because then that opens all the doors from there. That was the advice that I received at that time. And even then, I still didn't take that advice, but it was compelling and I almost took that advice. But I would say where you go to law school has most to do with your first, this is my opinion, your first position after law school. So if you go to law school and you graduate and you pass the bar, you're a lawyer, right? That makes you a lawyer. If the first job out of law school, if you're interested in big law, and so King and Spalding was big law. Big law is, 600 or more lawyers, typically international law firms that do mostly defense work. So this is class actions, business litigation, securities, you name it, but it's civil. Most big law is civil litigation. So these are things I did not actually understand at the time. I didn't understand the difference between civil litigation, criminal law. I had no idea what those things meant. And so if you want to go to big law right out of law school, my opinion is it does matter what law school you go to. And so the brand does matter. And the name of the school has a lot of impact on where you can go in terms of big law, big international law firms. If that is not an interest of yours, and if it's public interest, if it's criminal, if it's defense, if it's pretty much any other type of legal work, the name of the brand and the ranking of the law school, it is not as critical as long as you graduate and you pass the bar. So once you get out there, a lawyer is a lawyer. And as long as you are talented and skilled. So the advice to go to the best name available, even if you have to take out a lot of loans, my opinion is that is not a strong recommendation, but you do need to think about that if you're interested in big law, because it will matter. Big law does pay attention to the school that you went to for law school. The next thing that I'm gonna jump to, which is a really personal thing for me, but I think as there's been a couple of references to being a minority and just in this profession, there are things that I think we all will have challenges with, but you can still persevere. And so one of the big, personal things that I want to share about my journey is the importance of goal setting and then persevering through challenges. So as I said, when I was 12, I decided to be a lawyer. I knew I wanted to go to Spelman, went to Vanderbilt, came right out, went to the firm that I had selected. But during my third year of law school, actually I guess it was my second year, I was pregnant, so I had a child my second year of law school. And which was not expected, and hey, that's what we do. And so, but I want to share this because I think we all, people have challenges, and I want to kind of really help people understand what it looks like to still push through when you've set certain goals. So I was pregnant my second year of law school, went to King and Spalding as a summer associate. And so King and Spalding is a majority white law firm, and it's a very large law firm, very notable. And so that summer, there were 69 summer associates from all of the different offices. So actually, no, that was Atlanta and DC. So between Atlanta and DC, there were 69 summer associates, which I don't even think it works like that anymore post-recession. I don't think even big firms have those big those summer classes like that, but they used to have these really gigantic summer classes. Of the 69, I was one of 3 minority summer associates. So 69 summer associates, 3 minority summer associates, one of them is very pregnant. That was me. And that was hard. That was a challenge. And there were people, even in my law school, that thought, well, are you still going to go? Because, I mean, it's already kind of noticeable that you're a minority. Like, it's a big deal that you're a minority in this environment. And so now you're the pregnant minority in this environment. And it is relevant. I was not married. And so this is a Southern environment, very conservative views, and so I'm the pregnant minority unmarried summer associate at King and Spalding. And so I went through the summer, finished it, had a great time, came back to law school, and had my son on September 8th of 2004, actually. So he just turned 14. And so I had him my 3rd year of law school, and I returned to school 2 weeks after giving birth. So had him get on back in there, and so I finished law school. King and Spalding had already offered me a position, so the way it used to work then, at least with big law, is that you do your summer in your 2nd year, and if you do well, they offer you the position. So you still have to finish your 3rd year, but assuming you graduate, you have already secured your first job, and you do it during your 2nd year. And had I not finished that year, so Vanderbilt didn't have night school, didn't have summer school, so it was either finish, go 3rd year, or take the year off, like the entire year. And so I may have forfeited my position, my opportunity, had I not completed. And so I completed. And I, had my son, went back to school 2 weeks after, graduated, and started Vanderbilt. Had just started King and Spalding rather, and just little under 1. I also took the bar, and I will say this in this room. So I studied for the bar here at Emory Law School, and there are some people that, went to law school with me. My son was in here with me, so I'm studying for the bar, Barbary in this literal room, studying, and, took the bar, passed the bar, and started at King and Spalding with a little less than a 1-year-old. Full-time, lots of hours, and we can talk offline about that. The things you hear about big law are accurate, so it's a lot. It's a lot of hours, a lot of work. That is not an exaggeration. So the things that you hear about big law are accurate. There are great opportunities, but it is a lot of work, nights, weekends, holidays, it is all that. And the reason that I wanted to share that story is because there were a lot of people, family, friends, people at the law school, people even at the firm, who did not expect me to push through that. And it was hard. It was very hard. And so I don't want to minimize that, but the point is you can set goals and you can persevere through anything. And so I share that because there are a lot of people who don't know my personal story. And so now I'm vice president at Morehouse and, have a cute little Mercedes and cute little kids and, people make a lot of assumptions about, well, I'm sure this was easy. She went to Spelman, she went to Vanderbilt, also gave birth and came back 2 weeks afterwards and persevered. And so the message here is that you all can persevere. Everybody has a different story. I do think as minorities, there sometimes are going to be experiences for us that may be different. I won't say harder, but as minorities, as women, there are going to be some things in this profession that can be challenges, but you can still push through it. I've done it. I'm an example of that. I know others that have. And so I wanted to share that so that as you think about things, you see, not that I think I'm Claire Huxtable, but you see an image and an example of someone who has done those things, and it's a little more real. It's funny, I met Felicia Rashad, and I did go up and talk to her, and I said, so, I'm sure you hear this all the time, you are the exclusive reason why I became a lawyer, and the only thing that I would say is, you lied to me. Like, this was not, this was a lot different than what the imagery, and so a lot of it was what I expected, but there was a lot more. And I said, it would be funny if there was a reality TV show version of The Cosby Show, because as a woman and a minority in this profession, there are a lot of things that were not depicted in The Cosby Show. I joked, I said, you'd have 3 au pairs, you'd be in counseling every other weekend, all your kids would be, just kind of joke, because it's a lot. It's a huge demand on parents, family life. There are a lot of dynamics. So I said, you made that look a lot cooler than kind of how this played out. And I'm going to close with something that ties back to what I shared about my summer associate experience. And it's about personal brand awareness and being just aware of what you're projecting, even as a high school student, college student, law school. People are always observing you, and like any career path, once you choose a career path, people in that profession pay attention. And so once you say, I want to be a lawyer, people pay attention to that. And it doesn't matter how old you are, people in the profession pay attention. What I thought was very interesting in the weeks leading up to this event, I ran into 2 partners from King and Spalding that were there when I was a summer associate. So just completely random, 2 people that I did not work for when I was at King and Spalding, but I rotated through their groups when I was a summer associate. 1 white female, 1 white male. And what was so interesting is they both came up to me, remembered that I was the Black, unmarried, pregnant summer associate, and just shared with me how impressed they were and how, as I thought that the firm was judging me, that entire environment was impressed and awed and, just really like, I can't believe she's doing this. Sorry, thank you. So thank you for the applause. But the reason I say that is because sometimes we think we're telling ourselves things and there's a narrative in our mind about what's happening. And so they were all looking at me. So it was not, they were looking. So that I did not create that because I was very self-conscious, obviously, the entire summer. But to run into 2 partners that were very high level at that time, both of which we all took note that you were doing this and that you were here and you were persevering through. And I would have never thought that. And just the irony that I ran into both of them literally within the last 2 weeks and that they wanted to come and share with me how impressive it was to see someone power through in that environment. So I say that just to be, to share my personal story, give you some perspective about things, and then to just let you know that whatever you want to do, you can do it. And there's really nothing, and I know that sounds cheesy, but there's really nothing that can happen that can stop you from doing what you want to do. You just have to be committed to it and push through no matter what.